Have you ever felt like the world was crumbling down, with not a single light at the end of the tunnel? At 68, Helena was facing debts, loneliness, and the weight of the impossible until she discovered something that transformed her life in an unbelievable way. What seemed like magic became reality, and her journey of overcoming and hope is proof that life can change, even in the most difficult moments. Stay until the end because this story is full of exciting twists and powerful inspirations. Leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and get ready to believe in the impossible. I never imagined that at 68, I would be starting over from scratch. My name is Helena, and today I want to share how my life completely changed when I discovered the power of manifestation. But first, I need to tell you where and how it all began. On that cold January morning, I sat at my small kitchen table, as I did every day. The bills piled up in front of me: overdue rent, electricity, water, medications. My trembling fingers held a cup of weak coffee as I tried once again to make the impossible numbers add up. "Miss Helena, you need to settle this rent by the end of the month," the building manager had told me the day before. "You're already 3 months behind." "I know, Mr. Roberto. I'm trying," I replied, swallowing the lump in my throat. Ever since Pedro, my husband, passed away 2 years ago, everything fell apart. Our small savings were consumed by his medical treatments. The pension I received barely covered groceries, and slowly, I watched our middle-class life turn into a daily struggle for survival. "You should sell some things, Mom," my daughter Carol suggested over the phone. She lived far away and had her own family to support. "I've sold almost everything I could, daughter. Only the basics are left," I replied, looking around the increasingly empty apartment. The old clock on the wall, a gift from Pedro, showed 8:15 a.m. It was time for my morning walk in the park, the only luxury I allowed myself. As I walked, I observed the other people, executives rushing by with their expensive headphones, mothers pushing the latest trendy strollers, elderly folks like me, but seemingly carefree. How do they manage? I wondered. Where did I go wrong in life to end up in this situation? I returned home and found yet another letter under the door. My hands trembled as I opened it. It was the final eviction notice. 60 days to vacate the apartment. I collapsed into the kitchen chair, tears blurring my vision. "Pedro, how I wish you were here," I whispered to the emptiness of the apartment. "How will I start over alone?" The cold wind blew through the cracks of the poorly sealed window, making the bills dance on the table. $876 in overdue rent, $234 for electricity, $156 for water, $432 for medications. The numbers seemed to mock my situation. That night, lying in my lonely bed, I asked myself, has anyone out there ever felt like this? As if the whole world was collapsing and there wasn't a single light at the end of the tunnel? Little did I know that that moment of total despair would be the beginning of a transformation that would change not only my financial reality but also my entire perspective on life. That rainy afternoon changed everything. I was sitting in front of the old computer my daughter had given me, searching for ways to save on my electricity bill. My hands ached from arthritis as I slowly typed how to reduce monthly expenses. That's when it happened. My finger slipped on the mouse and I clicked on an ad I would normally ignore. The screen showed a middle-aged man with a serene smile that reminded me of my late Pedro. "Abundance already exists in your life, you just need to allow it to manifest," he said. My first instinct was to close the page. What nonsense, I thought to myself. As if positive thinking could pay my bills. But something in his voice held me captive. It was calm, sincere, without that artificial excitement that always bothered me about salespeople. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to attract money naturally while others struggle constantly? He asked. The difference lies in the mindset and how you relate to abundance. I grabbed an old piece of paper from a supermarket flyer and started taking notes. My hands trembled, but it wasn't fear anymore. It was a different feeling, as if something important was happening. Write this down, he said. Your current reality is the result of your past thoughts. But your future reality? That you start creating now. Outside, the rain was pouring down. Inside me, something was also beginning to transform. Money is just energy in motion, he continued. When you change your relationship with it, it changes its relationship with you. I looked at the bills piled up beside me. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel that tightness in my chest. This seems crazy, I said out loud to the empty apartment. But what do I have to lose? I spent the next 2 hours watching more of his videos. I wrote down phrases like I am a magnet for prosperity and money flows to me naturally. Words that would have seemed ridiculous to me before now awakened something new within me. Miss Helena, my neighbor called through the window. Is everything okay? I haven't heard you moving for hours. Yes, Maria, I replied, realizing it was already dark outside. In fact, I think I'm better than ever. That night, before going to bed, I placed my notes under my pillow. It was a silly gesture, I knew, but something inside me had changed. A small seed of hope had been planted, and I could hardly wait to see what would sprout from it. I looked at myself in the mirror that morning, trying to repeat those affirmations I had written down. I am prosperous, I am abundant. My voice came out weak, insecure. Who was I trying to fool? What nonsense are you doing, Mom? My daughter Carol asked when she found me talking to myself in front of the mirror. You need to find a job, not keep repeating these things. I felt my face burn with embarrassment. Carol was right, I was acting like a fool. That same day, I received a brown envelope from the bank. My hands trembled as I opened it. Final notice, before account closure, I read aloud, feeling a lump in my throat. The paper trembled in my hands. I tried to hold on to those words about abundance, but they felt empty now. How could I manifest money when I didn't even have gas to cook? Ms. Helena, called Mr. Jose, the caretaker, from the door. The administration sent word that the condo fee is due tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Jose, I replied, swallowing my tears. I'll take care of it. Take care of it with what money? My mind screamed. I sat in the old armchair in the living room, the one Pedro loved so much, and allowed myself to cry. You're too old to believe in fairy tales, that voice inside me said. Who do you think you are to want more out of life? But there was another voice, softer, that whispered, and why not you? Why not now? I grabbed my little notebook, the same one where I had written the phrases from the video. Some pages were stained with coffee, others with tears. I don't know if I believe in all this, I said to the empty apartment. But I also don't know if I can keep living like this. The phone rang. It was another bill collector. I hung up without answering. Maybe I'm going crazy, I thought, but continuing to do the same things and expecting different results, that is madness. That night, even with all the doubts eating away at me, even with the bills piling up, I decided to keep going. Not because I fully believed, but because for the first time in years, I had found something that gave me a glimmer of hope. If it doesn't work out, I told myself, at least I can say I tried something different. I was walking through the park that Thursday morning, thinking about how to save on cleaning products, when I heard a familiar voice. Helena! It's been so long, dear. It was Donna Amalia, my old neighbor. But there was something different about her. Her eyes sparkled, and she emanated an energy I didn't remember seeing before. Amalia? Wow, you look different. You noticed, huh? She smiled, sitting on the bench beside me. It's not just my appearance. My life has completely changed in the last few months. I realized my eyes were filling with tears. Mine has changed too, Amalia. Only for the worse. I told her everything. About the debts, the fear, the failed attempts at manifestation. Instead of judging me, she opened her purse and pulled out a worn blue notebook. This changed my life, she said, flipping through the pages. It's called scripting. Every day, I write as if I'm already living the life I desire. What do you mean? I asked, confused. Look, she pointed to a page. I write, today I woke up happy because my bank account has $5,000. I paid all my bills and even had money left over to help my granddaughter with college. But, isn't that lying to yourself? No, Helena. It's programming your brain. When you write and feel as if it's real, your subconscious starts working to make it happen. She handed me a new notebook, still closed. 15 minutes a day, she instructed. Write as if you're already living your best life. But the secret is to feel each word. And what if I can't? Start small. Write about paying a bill, then about having a small savings. The important thing is consistency. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with the new notebook. The blank page stared back at me. Today. I started to write, hesitantly. Today, I opened my bank account and smiled at the positive balance. The words began to flow. It was like telling a story, but a story I desperately wanted to become real. Very good, I heard Amalia's voice in my mind. Now feel each word as if it's already true. It had been 3 weeks since I had been writing in the notebook religiously every night. At first, I felt silly, but I kept going. It was on a Tuesday that I noticed the first change. Ms. Helena! Maria called from the window. I brought some fruits from the market. They looked so beautiful that I thought of you. I was speechless. The night before, I had written about having a fridge full of fresh food. Wow, but you didn't have to. I started to say. Don't mention it. You've always been so good to me. It's the least I can do. 2 days later, Father Joao called me. Helena, I heard you're having trouble with your gas bill. The church has an assistance fund. We can help this month. My first reaction was to refuse. But I remembered Amalia's words, the universe works in mysterious ways. Accept help when it comes. Thank you, Father. I accept, I replied, swallowing my pride. What happened the following week left me stunned. A letter arrived addressed to my late Pedro. Ms. Helena Martinez, I read aloud, my hands shaking. Your husband repaired my roof 15 years ago. I've never forgotten your kindness in accepting payment in installments. I found an old check that wasn't cashed. I'm sending a new one, with interest. The check was for $750. I sat in the armchair, dazed. Mom? Are you okay? Carol asked when she saw me crying. I'm fine, honey. For the first time in a long time, I'm fine. That night, I wrote in the notebook with a different energy. It was no longer just hope, it was certainty. Today I bought tickets to visit my sister in Florida, I wrote, feeling my heart race with the possibility. You're different, commented Mr. Jose, the caretaker, a few days later. You're even walking more elegantly. She smiled, remembering that she had written about feeling more confident. Yeah, Mr. Jose. Life is funny, right? Sometimes we think we're at rock bottom, but it's just the universe preparing something better. He looked at me confused, but smiled back. That night, before going to bed, I looked at the blue notebook. Its pages now held not only dreams, but small victories that were accumulating. Like raindrops that, one by one, form a river. I was tidying up Pedro's room when I found that yellow folder at the bottom of the drawer. My heart nearly stopped when I read the header, Investment Certificate. Carol! Carol, come here. I shouted, my hands trembling so much I could barely hold the paper. What is it, Mom? You look pale. Look at this, your dad, he had made an investment. 12 years ago. The document showed an investment in a conservative fund. Pedro had never told me. Just like him, always wanting to surprise me. At the bank, manager Melissa checked the documents. Mrs. Helena, this investment has yielded much more than expected. With compound interest and adjustments. When she showed me the amount on the monitor, my legs went weak. $157,000. Are you okay? Melissa asked, offering me a glass of water. I'm just. Tears began to fall. You know, 3 months ago I was writing every night about having financial security. About being able to sleep without worrying about bills. Mom, Carol held my hand, also crying. Dad always knew. He always knew we would need it. On the way home, I stopped at the park where I used to meet Donna Amalia. The universe conspires in favor of those who believe, she always used to say. Now I understood. That night, I sat down to write in my blue notebook. But this time it was different. I wasn't writing about what I wanted to manifest, I was expressing gratitude. Pedro, I whispered to the wind. You're still taking care of us, right? The phone rang. It was Carol. Mom, I still can't believe it. You always said things would get better, but... Daughter, I interrupted, it wasn't just the money. It was realizing that I deserved this. That we deserved to be happy. You've changed so much in the last few months. It was true. The desperate woman who started writing in that notebook no longer existed. In her place was someone who finally understood her own worth. I took the notebook and wrote one last time. Today I understood that the greatest manifestation was not the money. It was rediscovering who I always was, someone capable of creating her own reality. Today, a year after finding that first blue notebook, I was sitting on the same park bench where it all began. A young mother sat down next to me, clearly distressed. You seem so calm, she commented. How do you do that with everything so expensive, so much worry? I smiled, pulling out my new notebook from my bag. You know, a year ago I was just like you. I woke up every day afraid to open the bills, to answer the phone. Until I learned something that changed everything. What was it? She asked, her eyes shining with hope. I learned that our thoughts create our reality. I started writing my goals as if they were already real. At first, it seemed crazy. but little by little, things started to change. I showed her my recent notes, small victories, moments of gratitude, new dreams. But it's not just about money, I continued. It's about believing that we deserve more. That we can do more. Carol arrived at that moment, bringing my favorite coffee. Mom, you won't believe it. That project I wrote in my notebook, it got approved. See? I smiled at the young woman next to me. My daughter has also started practicing. The woman took a piece of paper from her bag and started writing. What are you doing? I asked. Starting my story, she replied, determined. That night, I reflected on my transformation. I was no longer that scared woman who could barely pay the bills. Now I help others, do volunteer work, live with purpose. Helena, Donna Amalia, called me. Do you remember when I gave you that first notebook? How could I forget? It was the beginning of everything. No, dear. The beginning was when you decided to believe. I looked at my shelf, where I keep all the filled notebooks. Each one tells a part of my transformation story. And you, who are reading this now, have you stopped to think about the power that exists within you? What story do you want to tell? What reality do you want to create? Grab a notebook, a pen. Start writing your new story. It doesn't matter where you are now, what matters is where you want to go. Because the real magic isn't in the words we write, but in the courage to believe that we deserve something better. And when we truly believe, the universe conspires in our favor. The blank page of your life is waiting. What will you write on it? If Helena's story inspired you to believe in the power of change and gratitude, leave your like to support our work and share it with someone who needs this motivation. Write in the comments what you would do if you had the chance to rewrite your life and manifest your dreams. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to not miss more touching stories like this. Let's create a community of transformation and hope together. Until the next video.